Right. Someone set the stream up wrong.
That must have been epic.
Yep. He does it manually from YouTube Studio. Hello guys, welcome to PSGL PC F5. Apologies for, well, the lack of stream, to put it bluntly. Not really my doing. Turns out YouTube Studio wanted to have a mad one. But alongside me is Max Ring, and we've been casting for about 15 minutes already, and turns out we weren't even live. So, welcome to broadcasting. But nonetheless, I think we're fine now, hopefully. If not, find me in a corner later. Because this would be very, very embarrassing indeed. But nonetheless, give me a few moments so I can actually see if this is working. It is! Whoa! This is quite something. I don't know where this random ass audio is coming from. Turns out it's the game audio. So we're going to turn that off very quickly. But, Max, the viewers didn't get to see it.
5% of our initial fuel load left over. 5%.
Unpack that qualifying.
Yeah, that was a very entertaining qualifier. We thought we were live. We weren't. Well, I mean, you were streaming it, but we don't know where to. But it was a very entertaining one. Yelty Korsman has taken pole position. Of course, welcome back as well, everybody, to F5. Of course, we've not been here for the past 2 weeks. It's been out of our control, but it's been a really good qualifying session there. Yelty Korsman taking pole from Riley McKay, and then I think it was the likes of Ben Marples in third and Wilson Hall, but we'll have a full grid rundown probably, Byron, when we get into the main session. But it was very entertaining. It seems like we're going to have a dry race here this evening. I'll quickly run you guys through the drivers' standings once again. Just did that earlier, but we'll do it again now. So after last week's events at Austria, Riley McKay won the race, and now he is your championship leader here in F5. 45 points over Wilson Hall in second on 40. 13 points separate that top four, and in third and fourth are the Aston Martin duo of Kuba Wozniak and Ben Marples. Menno is in fifth on 18 points. Nicola Soro in sixth on 16. You have Yelty Korsman in seventh. Of course, today's pole man. He finished second last time out, as we know, in Australia as well. He took pole position, but a mistake on that one cost him big time, so he's hoping to not do the same mistake here this evening. Snakes in 8th with 12 points, then we have Victor Riddler in 9th with 10, and then rounding out your top 10 is Danny Coe with 9. And the rest of your point scorers in F5 so far this season are Justin Piccolo, Fabio Grigatello, Marcel Biega, Matteo Ria, Alex Santana, Jensen Randall, Gabrielle Stella, and Gabriele Prazzi. Those 19 drivers have all scored points. The rest of the field at the moment haven't scored. And still, it's shaping up to be a very interesting title fight at the top. 13 points separating that top four. One race win for either of those four drivers, or anybody still left in this field, can change your season as a whole. And for Yelty Korsman, starting on pole position, down in 7th, needing points to get back into this one. He's exactly where he wants to be here, Byron, and you would expect him to try and take full advantage of that.
Absolutely. Nonetheless, it's going to be an exciting race that we are building up to. If you've only just joined us, apologies for the lack of stream. YouTube Studio decided that we weren't supposed to go live tonight. We might have not raced, streamed for the last 2 weeks, and decided why not make it a third week. And if I hadn't clocked it, we wouldn't be live the entire time, which would have been, well, a waste of your time, a waste of ours, would have been a waste of everyone's, really. So it's good that we found it. But yeah, qualifying went very swimmingly, very well for some, but obviously there's some people further down the order, as you would expect. You know, you can't all be first, unfortunately, in the world of Formula 1, but nonetheless, building up to that race that we're going to be getting underway with, hopefully, within the next couple of minutes, just getting that grid order sorted. You know, we're used to this game with its amazing features of grid penalties for blocking, and why not, you know, have a lobby restart just to kind of give us a bit of time to sort ourselves out and make sure everything runs smoothly for this race. But, you know, you can't count out anyone around a track like Canada, you know, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, such a old classic track, but it's one that these drivers absolutely love. It's such a good track, so much fun, you know, and those walls are so close, especially, you know, the Wall of Champions, and especially in that Sector 1, you are never too far away from a wall, so definitely expecting a crash or two. Front wings probably will go flying, but you know, it's going to add to what is going to be a very exciting race.
Yeah, it certainly will. Canada is always a circuit which drivers want to perform well out. It's really a circuit which is challenging, but it's a very fun one to drive at the same time. As you say, the wall's very, very close, very easy to make those mistakes and just put a front wing in the wall, maybe even lose your front tyre if you have a slide, especially coming out the likes of turn 8 and turn 10. They're real big places where you can drop the rear and put the car into the wall, but it's going to be an exciting one. It's one of the easier street circuits to overtake at, but it's still a very big challenge. It's mainly just due to that really long straight heading down into the Wall of Champions chicane. So we are loaded into the lobby now. We're back into the pit lane. But yeah, it should be a very exciting one. I'm expecting, I would say, a hard medium strategy like usual we see here in league racing. But overall, other than that, it should be a very, very entertaining one. A circuit which can provide brilliant racing with or without rain. And these drivers should be very close to each other. We saw in qualifying they were closely matched. If they can transfer that into the race, come the final lap, we could see a good 6-7 cars all battling it out for that race victory, going down into that Wall of Champions chicane.
Absolutely, and let's take you trackside now. And, well, my game didn't actually break on that particular occasion. Did decide to pause, which is definitely an improvement on all of times prior. But here we are, trackside at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And this one is going to be an exciting race. All of these drivers getting their setups on, getting their strategies ready, and thinking about the rundown into turn 1. And here we go then, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. Here in Canada, a good start there for Riley McKay. He's already trying to mount the pressure there on Yellow to Korsman into turn number 1. Yellow to Korsman, he's got the worst line. Oh, he's gone round at turn 1. Yellow to Korsman already down the order. He's all the way down in, well, 19th in this race already on lap number 1. Riley McKay leads ahead of Ben Marples. Here, Patrick there in third. We've got Wilson and Meadow there in 5th. Snakes there in 6th. Lost the place there on the start, but look at the battling going on down here as we go towards the end of Sector 1 there. Mateo there side by side with Mattia as now they go up into what will be a DRS straight in a couple of laps time, but for now it's a drag race down as we head into this tricky chicane here. Very easy to run wide, get a grid penalty, not a grid penalty, sorry, a penalty, time penalty there going through there, or a warning as Marcel Diego there gains a few places versus Fabio and a few other drivers as we see a dive there versus Hugo and Lucas there as they go down and now down this straight, which again, another DRS straight, another great overtaking opportunity. It's Riley McKay out in front come the end of lap 1.
Yeah, that was another disastrous start for pole position there from Yelty Korsman. 2 poles, 2 spins on the opening lap, and it's so cruel for him. Jensen Randall into the pit lane and has actually retired already on this opening lap of the Grand Prix. So a disastrous start here for the McLaren outfit here in F5 around Canada. We've got Grigatello versus Lewis Walker and the Williams driver going all the way around the outside through turn 2. Beautifully done there. Now Mateo Ria and Clean going side by side through turns 3 and 4. There's contact made. Mateo Ria sent into the wall. And we have our first safety car of the evening. Of course, safety cars always a high risk around here. And it's only taken us 1.25 laps. We've already got our first one, unfortunately for Mateo Ria. I think it was just a bit too aggressive from him to try and defend there from Rene Clean. And unfortunately, he is out this Grand Prix alongside Jensen Randall.
Yeah, unfortunate scenes here around Montreal for, well, certainly Materia there. And also Jensen Randall, who have both retired out of this race. Obviously, Jensen Randall retiring in the pit lane, but Materia leaving the session. Clearly not a very happy driver there in that cockpit, but the entire field. It's going to be some good pits on this as well, especially I expect to see Riley McKay in here because he's on a set of soft compound tyres, but nonetheless not coming into the pit lane, maybe a bit too much of a gamble. At this stage, when you're leading the race, no one really seeming to want to come into the pit lane. I say that because I think I saw a hat of Renault Cleaner go into the pit lane, but does that mean there's a bit of damage to that car? You were saying about he's battling there, could it be a bit of damage? You never know. Nonetheless, into the pit lane, and it is a front wing change there for him, as well as Lewis Walker, change of front wing there for the Sauber car, but under safety car conditions, Riley McKay leads the way on the soft compound of tyres. A lot of softs being used here actually on this grid as these down. Riley McKay and Ben Market both on soft compound tyres, but a lot of them on that red wall tyre as Patrick somehow battles there side by side with Wilson Hall. In fact, I actually believe they were almost ghosted through each other briefly there, but safety car conditions, bit of a reset, but a good opportunity to recharge your battery, get your fuel up if you need to, and well, a 5-second penalty for Patrick there for ignoring yellow flags.
That is a very confusing one because he was ahead of Wilson Hall when this safety car came out, so I think that might be a bit of a lobby issue where, I know the glitches on this game under the safety car, if someone passes you, sometimes they get the position for free, but that's unfortunate there for Patrick Datmeyer, who will serve that in his next pit stop. And I have news on the Jenson Randall situation. He forgot his setup. That's why he retired in the pit lane, because he forgot his setup, and at that point there is no real reason to continue, because unless it's a mental race with at least another 5-6 more retirements, you're going to be nowhere, especially with the tyre pressures as well, eating away at your tyres. It's going to be ever so difficult to even try to keep your car on the road. Jelty Korsman into the pit lane now. I think, by the looks of the strategies, there might be some rain actually here in this Grand Prix. I don't count me on it just yet, but with the way everyone's on the soft compound tyre, a tyre you don't really see often on this game, and especially around the likes of Canada, which is a very, very tyre-dependent circuit, I would say there is some rain on the cards. So look out for that sky, and we can maybe see a few spots come the end of the Grand Prix, but we'll have to wait and see. But overall, that race start was very frantic. I'm actually very, very somewhat proud of the drivers on how cleanly they kept it until that Matteo Ria and Rene Clean incident. But overall, that was still quite a clean battle up until that point. So it's been a decent start for the drivers, especially for Riley McKay. But we'll have to wait and see how the rest of this race progresses. But for the likes of Wilson Hall and Patrick Datmeyer, being on those alternate strategies, the hards and the mediums, you're sort of hoping that the rain will hold off until about lap 16-17, when the soft tyre runners would have had to come into the pit lane, but the perfect time for your pit window to arrive as the safety car's in at the end of this lap. When will we go racing once again here around the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal?
Absolutely, well, keep your eye on the sky, as you said, because there might be a bit of rain on the cards, but keep your eye, most certainly for the time being, fixated on this safety car restart. Riley McKay about to lead us away. He didn't lead us away off the grid. That was Jelter Korsman, who's all the way down in 17th, but nonetheless, Riley McKay, he's going to lead us away from here, and he's gone a little bit earlier than I would have expected, right up to the line. Really didn't go quite as late as I thought he might, but got the jump there. 3-second time penalty for Gabriel Prezzi there, who's down in 30th, the 3-second time penalty. So it's a good day in the office for one Ferrari, not so much for the other as things stand, but the safety car restart back underway and taken very nicely, very sensibly by Riley McKay here, who's ahead of Ben Marples. Not too far behind though is that medium and hard compound tyre there, that well, into the hairpin.
Yeah, Piccolo picking off Nicolo Soro into the hairpin as well, the driver on the soft. Getting past the driver on the hard compound tyres, the Red Bull moves up into 7th place. Jelty Korsman getting past Gabriele Prezzi. Now Gabriele has had an absolutely horrid safety car restart. He's gone from about 12th place, now down to 17th, and coming into the pit lane this time around. And no, I think this might be a retirement here from Gabriele Prezzi. I do not know. His AI is just driven completely away from the pit lane line, and there we go. Yeah, that is our third retirement from the Grand Prix in only 3 full racing laps. But Kuba Wozniak looking for a move on Marcel Biega, P11 in this Grand Prix, not going to be able to get the move done into turns 3 and 4, but maybe into turn 7, late on the brakes on the Aston Martin. Of course, in the championship battle is Kuba Wozniak round the outside, a big slide for Kuba Wozniak, but here we have the other drivers trying to cause some harm in his way, the likes of Brigatello and Clean. But for Kuba Wozniak, he's able to get by on those softs. Now Jeltsi Korsman looking for a move on Rene Clean as well. Lucas Pesnaya trying to get past Nicola Soro further up, but Jeltsi Korsman late on the brakes, has to go deep, has to go off on the grass, and then straight back on the circuit at the hairpin. But for Jeltsi Korsman, went in too deep, got on the grass as well, which didn't help him slow down for the corner, and he's back down to 16th place. All his hard work undone there, but for Nicola Soro, he's not only dropped down behind Lucas Besnaya, he's also dropped behind Hugo Frontbon as well, who's now looking for a move on said Lucas Besnaya, but not able to get the move done into turn 1. But someone getting the move done into turn 1 is Rene Clean on Marcel Biega. A really nice lunge to the inside, and another 2 Alfa Romeos going side by side of Lewis Walker, holding it all the way around the outside of those mediums. Really well done. Those hard sides at the moment really don't seem to be working for these drivers further back, as Kuba Wozniak picks up a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, Marcel Biega really struggling on in his Sauber on those hard compound of tyres, all the way down in 16th. Now, it really seems like they're really struggling. But Wilson Hall, interestingly enough, he's on that same hard compound tyre. He's not struggling anywhere near as much as they are. So very interesting to see the difference in terms of which drivers are struggling and which ones are not on that compound tyre. Maybe it's just down to your tyre pressures. But there, Kuba Wozniak there getting ahead of Nicola Soro there. And that battle likely to continue, but the softs really holding up quite well as things stand. But look at the clouds, they're not really forming as maybe these drivers hope. If there is going to be rain, they would have kind of been hoping it's going to get a bit more overcast within the next couple of laps. But just like many circuits, this track seems to have its own climate around it. 1 minute it's dry, the next one it is absolutely soaked. So anything could happen at this track, to be quite honest with you. And well, Riley McKay, he's just going to be hoping it comes at an opportune moment for him when he's not already pitting this race.
Yeah, he really is. He's hoping that it comes around about lap 13, 14. Is Riley McKay. Of course, those soft tyres will be lasting a little bit longer due to that safety car that we had. So expect him to extend his stint slightly in that scenario. So for Riley McKay, Ben Marples, they're just doing what they can on that soft compounded tyres. Wilson Hall is actually keeping with that top 3 quite nicely. Yes, Patrick Datmeyer is on those mediums, but he's still holding on to the back of the Haas quite well. He's really the best driver so far that we've seen on those hard compound tyres. Rene Clean to the inside of Fabio Grigatello as Ben Marples makes his move for the lead. He's past Riley McKay as they head down into the wall of champion chicane of 13 and 14, and the Aston Martin now inherits the race lead. The first driver swap really since this safety car restart, and since the race really began. Riley McKay has led all the way since turn 1 on lap 1, and on lap 9 of 35 he has been overtaken. Kuba Wozniak gets past Hugo Frontbon. He has really started to put some pressure on the drivers in front. He's really scythed his way through the field as Kuba Wozniak, unfortunately though, does have that 3-second time penalty to his name. Oh, and there's a big crash in the background. That's Lucas Besnaya into the wall on the exit of turns 3 and 4. I don't know if any other drivers got any damage from that. I know there was a bit more contact to put the AlphaTauri back into a straight line, but for Lucas Besnaya, that is absolutely horrid for him. Nearly 3 wide as we head down into turns 9 and 10, as Rene Clean to the inside of Nicola Soro. Nicola Soro forced onto the grass, and there goes the McLaren. Also for Jeltsi Korsman, Marcel Biega into the back of Nicola Soro as well, who tried rejoining the circuit as best as he possibly could. I think Nicola Soro might have a bit of front wing damage. Lucas Besnaya certainly does. I was saying Kuba Wozniak siphoning his way through the field, then that happened, and now Riley McKay back past Ben Marples into the wall of champion chicane. Expect these two to be swapping places lap by lap, because that straight is so long and you lose so much time to the likes of Patrick Datmeyer behind if you don't go for the swap of positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can gain about 7/10 down that straight if you've got a good setup and if you've got that rear wing open. It's very easy to get that overtake down that straight. As into the pit lane there comes Nicholas Soro and Lucas Benza there all the way down in 15th and 16th in this race. Wouldn't be too surprised if one of them retired because they've had a torrid time so far in this race, but someone who hasn't is Ryan McKay back out in front ahead of Ben Marbles there, but you've got to be careful of patching behind. But bear in mind, he has got a time penalty for obviously that overtake under the safety car conditions, which, you know, whether it stands or not is a completely another question, but for the time being, you've just got to deal with the cards you are dealt. Whether it gets removed afterwards is another question, but Ben Marbles, he's going to have that rear wing open once again down the straight within 6/10 of a second here, so you're going to get really up close to the back here down the straight, but you've got to be careful. Do you want to go for the overtake? Have you got enough overspeed limits? It doesn't Ben Marbles has, but very close to the back of Riley McKay now as we head down and begin lap number 11 here, and Hugo Fontabon there getting a time penalty. 3 seconds will be added to his time come the end of the race as Yeltsin Korsman into the pit lane, and is that to retire or is that for a change of tyres?
I would have a feeling this is for a change of front wing actually for Yeltsin Korsman in this race. He's had a torrid time from pole position. It has just not been a race to remember, but of course we did see another McLaren driver in the past make many a pit stop for many a reason, and many incidents in that one come through to then win the race in a mixed conditions Grand Prix if there is any rain in this one. That is Wilson Hall able to get past Patrick Datmeyer there into turn 9. The Haas driver struggling slightly there on the exit of turn 10 with some rear traction. Could this allow Menno to try and go for a move up the inside? No, but Menno not going for the move, allows Snakes to send it up the inside of the Mercedes. The AlphaTauri trying his best to get a good run out to the hairpin, but being on that side of the line pinches him in, means he doesn't get the best traction that he possibly can. And look at the straight line speed that Menno does have. Ben Marbles not going to get close enough to Riley McKay. Menno in the Mercedes not able to get close enough to Patrick Datmeyer in front, but nicely from the Mercedes driver, pinched Snakes into the hairpin there and was able to get the better run out the corner as Marcel Biega now into the pit lane. This is where we can maybe see those soft tyres start to hit that cliff and allow the pendulum to swing into the harder medium tyre runner's favour, and maybe we see Wilson Hall just climb his way up past Ben Marbles and then Riley McKay within the next few laps as Lewis Walker gets past Hugo Fontabon, and he's down to 10th place with Lewis Walker now up into 9th, but with a big slide through turn 7.
Yeah, not looking too bad in this race though. Wilson Hall, as you mentioned there, really beginning to make some strides in this race. His pace is looking very strong relative to those around him, but Ben Marbles, he's going to put a bit more pressure onto him now to try and make the overtake as well, because you think he's now got a bit more pressure to try and get ahead of Riley McKay, because it knows it'll give him a bit of a cushion versus Wilson Hall. But lap number 12 of 35, and you've got to think those soft tyres are coming in soon. And as I say that, on cue, Riley McKay into the pit lane as I die. But Wilson Hall up into 2nd place, and now it's his job to try and get ahead of Ben Marbles.
Yeah, what really Wilson Hall can do here is he has that flexibility now of going a bit longer into this race, of course. Being on that fresh tyre for Riley McKay and Ben Marbles earlier will mean they'll get a bigger undercut. But, as I say, I know it's only sceptical at the moment, but if there is rain or a late safety car, Wilson Hall could be in a really good position to then pretty much overcut them on that strategy, and overall being a very, very good position for this race victory. Of course, he's 2nd in the standings at the moment, I think only 3 points behind Riley McKay in the standings as Lucas Besnaya picks up a 3-second time penalty, but Wilson Hall looking very, very strong at this stage of the Grand Prix. Lewis Walker and Hugo Fontabon going side by side once more as they exit the hairpin, as there goes Lewis Walker with the better traction around the outside to get the move done and keep in 8th place. Really well defended there from the Sauber man, but Hugo still maybe looking for a move to the inside into the World Championship. Late on the brakes, touches the back of the Sauber as they head through the Wall of Champions chicane, but won't be close enough for a move, you would think, down into turn 1. The Red Bull just not going to get close enough to get a lunge to that inside line, but further up, Cooper Wozniak and Matteo Piccolo going to be in a scrap at this moment in time, as also, while that happened, Menno came into the pit lane and relinquished his place on the circuit, as Ronnie McKay has officially done a lap on those mediums, with Ben Marples still staying out on those softs. Could this be a bit of a risky strategy, or could it work out in the long run with that overcut maybe being a bit more powerful come the end of the Grand Prix?
Yeah, possibly very much going to work in Ben Marble's favour if that overcut does work for him. But Wilson Hall doesn't even have to think about pitting anytime soon, because hards can pretty much take you from start to finish around here. And if it is going to be any wet weather, you can certainly run until it hits. But the rain, or any possibility of rain, hasn't come about thus far in this race. Lap 14, Wilson Hall down the straight. And it's going to be plain sailing past the Aston Martin there as now Ben Marples surely will come into the pit lane very soon, but he's going to just tuck in behind Wilson Hall for the time being. Can he get pulled along? That is the question I think that maybe Ben Marples wants to find out. Can I just get that little bit of a extra helping hand, get the pace up just a little bit by just keeping as Cuba Wozniak gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting in this race, but no surprise there. But Riley McKay in 9th place as things stand. Those ahead of him pit under the safety car or haven't pit at all in this race. And well, Ben Marples, who he was battling with and exchanging positions with, he's not pit yet in this race, is in 2nd place, and well, it could either work to his detriment or his favour come the end of the race.
Yeah, it certainly can, as when Cooper picked up that penalty, he dropped behind Lewis Walker, but certainly maybe playing to Ronnie McKay's hands with this moment. Oh, big slide there from Cooper Wozniak through the hairpin. This could allow Hugo Fonbon to really get a good drive out of the hairpin and try to attack the Aston Martin, but doesn't seem to be close enough for a move. The Red Bull man going to get closer and closer with that slipstream, but into the Wall of Champions will just have to sit behind. But Ben Marples into the pit lane now. Let's see where he comes out compared to Riley McKay, the Ferrari man. He's going to jump him, you would think, as the track is looking a bit more overcast now up in the sky. But where does Ben Marples file out behind the Ferrari? Of course, Ben Marples will have that straight run down into turn 2, but it's going to be a big margin between the pair, and I think this could be up to 4 or 5 seconds between Riley McKay and Ben Marples. He's nearly undercut by Menno and Piccolo as well. So Ben Marples versus Riley McKay, 6.4 seconds is the gap. That's how big a 3-lap undercut is for Riley McKay. Of course, those soft tyres couldn't really go too much longer for Ben Marples. So if it did rain, he couldn't go till then, and he probably would have fallen off the circuit at that moment as well, because those soft tyres would have no grip left on a slippery road. But now the hunt begins for Ben Marples. He now needs to chase down Riley McKay, but the drivers up in front, maybe except from Cooper Wozniak, could extend slightly longer, but for Cooper Wozniak, he needs to come in shortly, because those soft tyres well and truly have hit the cliff, and it is like he's driving with no tread left on his tyre.
Yeah, absolutely. The pace going to really be beginning to stutter now for Cuba Wozniak, as on cue into the pit lane he comes in this race, and now that's going to be an extra position for those behind who haven't pit in this race. But as you mentioned, the track, it's looking a lot more overcast. It looks like we might get a bit of rain here because, well, the conditions have really changed here around the circuit. Well, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, because all of a sudden it's looking like it's a little bit possible that we're going to get a bit of rain hitting this circuit, and that might explain the decision from Wilson Hall and Hugo Fonbon, as well as those who are still out on that medium tyre, and those who went to the medium on that pit stop, because now, actually, has it begun raining already? I swear I saw a few droplets of rain somewhere around the circuit there. Maybe I'm just messing myself a little bit. As Wilson Hall, it might as well be raining around the circuit, because he slides his way through the hairpin there, as now he goes down the straight once more, and Patrick Dackmeyer there behind, only 5 times separating the pair as things stand, but it's not going to be, you know, well, it's not, God, I keep dying today, it's not looking too good for me, but Patrick Dackmeyer you know, within 5/10 of a second as he went down the straight, but that quickly becomes 2 1/10 of a second when you get to the end of it, as now he gets really close into turn number 1 as Kuba Wozniak there gets ahead of Marcel Biega there down in the battle for 12th place. But Kuba Wozniak not looking too bad. Pace is quite good for him. He's got that penalty to contend with though, but now he's got 1.5 seconds. He's got to gain 0.5 of a second to try and get in the DRS of Jelter Korsman, who is ahead of him. That driver who's had a miserable race so far. If it rains, it could be a little bit more insult to injury, especially if those top 7, don't pit again, because obviously, well, they'd be getting pretty much a free pit stop because they've gained track position and everyone pits for an extra time.
Yeah, they certainly do, but someone who could still capitalise from this somewhat, even though he's made a pit stop already, is Riley McKay. He's up into 6th place at the moment, he's behind Hugo Frontbon, and could really put his foot to the floor and push these medium tyres, because of course he don't have to worry if there is a bit of rain to manage that tyre, make sure there's some tread left on them for that moment, so he can really just push to the limit, make sure he don't pick up any warnings, and just absolutely go for it. It's Patrick Datmeyer has actually been overtaken by Snakes here. I think he's made a mistake out of the World Champion chicane, and there goes the AlphaTauri to the inside. Riley McKay also getting past Hugo Frontbon there, and he's now up into 5th place, catching up to this train of cars in front. But Riley McKay will have such a big grip difference compared to the cars in front that for the likes of Patrick Datmeyer, who's now picked up a 3-second time penalty, that's crucial for his Grand Prix, of course, alongside that 5-second time penalty he's got as well. So Patrick, of course, will fall down slightly more compared to the rest of the field if it does rain and they have to come into the pits because of that 5-second penalty he will have to serve. But for Riley McKay, he's going to have such a big grip difference compared to the cars in front that he should be able to just breeze past them, especially on the exits of the likes of the hairpin, the World Champion chicane, and also and on the exit of turn 2. So we'll see. Is he going to be close enough for DRS? I don't think he will be this time around, but he's going to be right on the back of Lewis Walker next time around. The Ferrari man is gaining at a rate of knots on the drivers in front. So for the likes of Wilson Hall, if you need the rain, you need it to come now. And for Snakes, he's already looking for a move on the Alpine, not going to get close enough, but the rain dance has already begun for that top 4.
Absolutely, they'll be praying for that rain to start coming down. If it is going to come down, who knows? The clouds might just be a little bit overcast for the time being. It might go back to sunny later on, but they might be almost hoping there's rain, you know, if it's not forecast and they're not expecting it, because of the fact that Riley McKay has gained so much time. He's pretty much gained a pit stop over these guys when you think about the fact they will have to come into the pit lane at some point in this race. But if the rain hits, then it will be, you know, it's a blinder strategy from them if the rain does hit, as Riley McKay there gets ahead of Lewis Walker. So now he's up into the top 4 once again in this race, and now the rain dance is definitely going to be going on in the car of Patrick Datmeyer now, because the pressure is really on for him, as now they head down the straight once more, and down they go, and all of a sudden Riley McKay back up onto the podium. 2 overtakes in 1 lap as they go side by side, 2 by 2 into the final corner, as Snakes there gets ahead of Wilson Hall, which is another important move in this race, as Matteo Piccolo there gets ahead of Menno there into the Wall of Champion chicane. And there we go, Riley McKay up into the top 2. He's made it look easy as Snakes now leads the way, but Riley McKay in 2nd place here. But look at the battery on Riley McKay, it is very, very low. Keep actually hiding all the data and stuff on the left hand side of the screen. I do apologise for that, but nonetheless, Riley McKay, so much pressure going on to Snakes and those top drivers. If the rain is coming, well, they've certainly not been able to capitalise on it as much as they may have wanted.
No, they certainly haven't. Riley McKay might have actually just pulled an absolute blinder of a strategy here against the rest of the field. He's now looking to take that race lead, and he certainly will on the exit of the hairpin and down into the World Champions chicane. No one able to keep up with the grip that he has to purchase that tyre gives on the exit of the corners. It's just too much to handle. And here we go then to the inside through turn 12, and Riley McKay up into the race lead once again. So that pit stop, he's gained a whole pit stop back on the drivers in front pretty much, and those medium tyres working a treat for him as Menno able to get past Fabio Brigatello. It seems like the drivers on that alternate strategy trying to go long, it's just not working for them. As next up for the top from 5th to 2nd now, I should say, not top 4. It's Ben Marples gaining again at a rate of notch, just like Riley McKay, and on younger tyres than Riley. Will certainly be able to cipher his way through that group of cars, just like how the Ferrari did. But for Riley McKay, if he can extend this gap to at least 3, 4, 5 seconds, come the rain, or if there is any rain, but he could easily just be in a world of his own and just have to worry about not picking up any penalties at the moment. But he's 1.3 seconds ahead. His battery's very low, but at the moment I don't think he's really caring about that. He just wants to get this car to the end of the Grand Prix.
Absolutely, and he's doing a great job out of it as things stand, because Ben Marples, he's just about to get in DRS of Lewis Walker. But think about the fact, Ben Marples, he's got 4 cars to try and get ahead of here. Snakes Wilson, Patrick Dackmeyer and Lewis Walker. If he doesn't have DRS on them as well, it'll make the hunt a little bit more difficult for him. But I do wonder why Snakes Wilson, Patrick Dackmeyer and Lewis Walker, as well as Hugo Fontbon, have decided to stay out. Was there rain on the car and they thought they could run until it? Well, if that was what they thought, it's certainly not going to come to them in this race. But possibly, maybe they're trying to do the alternate strategy, go to a set of soft compound tyres and have a brilliant final stint towards the end of this race. A lot of pace to be had if that is the case, but they're going to lose a lot of time, a lot of position. They could be as low down as where Marcel Biega is in this race. In fact, actually, I think they might even be further back and literally at the back of the field. But this pit lane, it's one of those, it's a bit shorter and a bit less time lost. But Ben Marples, he's got ahead of Patrick Dackmeyer here, and now Patrick Dackmeyer's race, it's really unfolding. He once was really applying the pressure to Wilson Hall, but now he's not quite as high up as he would have wanted. And now Ben Marples is going to be trying to get very quickly ahead of Lewis Walker down this second straight.
Yes, he certainly is. And here we go then, the Aston Martin pull into the outside line, and he's able to get by with pure ease. Of course, the Alfa Romeo will still be there, but once again, just having to stop behind is Lewis Walker. Ben Marples now needs a good exit out of the Wall of Champions to get Snakes, who doesn't have DRS down this main straight now. And it's a bit like how we saw Riley McKay get past 2 cars in 2 straights. Ben Marples does the same thing, but instead of it being Patrick Dackmeyer and Wilson Hall, this time around it's Lewis Walker and Snakes, as Ben Marples looking for a move into turn 3 and 4. Can't get the move done on the Alpine up in front. Lap 24 of 35 now. The medium tyres for the likes of Snakes, Patrick Dackmeyer, and also the hards for Wilson Hall will just be screaming in agony. As there goes Ben Marples to the inside of Wilson Hall. He now takes second place in this Grand Prix, 3.5 seconds, and here is the rain. The rain has started to fall here in Montreal, but it's not going to be soon enough for the likes of Snakes, Lewis Walker and Patrick Dackmeyer, and also Wilson Hall, because unfortunately it has come a few laps too late. And they're going to have a big task on their hands. But also, look at this, Byron. It's not really too intense. It's only spitting here in Canada, and I would say this will take quite a few laps, if the whole race, to get to the level of wetness we need for the intermediates.
Yeah, but who knows in PSGL, as someone, actually, Hugo Fontbon has come into the pit lane. This could give us an idea as to what he thinks is going to happen in this race. He's going on to intermediate tyres. So actually, looking in the pit lane, it looks a little bit damper than the track actually does itself. So actually, I think Hugo Fontbon might have made a good choice here, because although it doesn't seem to be raining too heavily, in the pit lane at least, when I was looking at his perspective, the track did look damp. It does look like it's going to head towards those intermediate conditions relatively quickly. It might only be spitting ever so slightly, but it's actually picked up quite a fair bit now. In fact, it is raining relatively heavily actually now. It's definitely looking like light rain, so I would expect to see at least Wilson Hall, Snakes, Lewis Walker in, as well as Patrick Dackmeyer in at the end of this lap, because they have nothing to lose by going onto intermediate tyres. They know if they stayed on those dries any longer, they'd just be losing place after place. But what does the likes of Riley McKay think in this race? He decides it's not worth the gamble. Does Ben Marples? No, he does not. When do other drivers come in for the intermediate tyres? Do they think they'll need the intermediate tyres? That is the question. At the moment in time, it definitely seems that the dry tyres are the way to go, but it won't be all too long until I think we see another driver or two on that intermediate tyres. Matteo Piccolo there gets ahead of Menno, who then is battling behind there with Kuba Wozniak.
Yeah, really nicely defended actually from Pico to keep in front of Menno around the outside for turn one. Gave him the inside for turn two, and he managed to keep in 6th place. But what the drivers like Lewis Walker, Snakes, and Patrick Datmeyer need to think about actually here is they don't want those medium compound tyres to pop. They don't want them to be to get a puncture at the times where they don't need it. Patrick Datmeyer has no grip at the moment. He's got no pace on those medium tyres as Lucas Besnaya has decided to retire in the pit lane. But now we do see the rain is slowly picking up. It's got a lot more intense than what it was only 2 laps ago. DRS will be open for Lewis Walker, but the same will happen for Piccolo as well. So we could see a switch between the Sauber and the Red Bull, and the Sauber actually has to let off so he don't go into the back of the AlphaTauri. And actually no, he's coming into the pit lane. So the first of the front 5 coming to the pits, it's Lewis Walker for those intermediate tyres. The track is getting worse, I can tell you that for a fact, as Piccolo driving around the outside of Snakes. Of course, the outside line in the rain is the better line, but here comes Menno. Tighter exit, not able to get the drive though out of the corner, and now these drivers start behind Snakes, but the circuit's certainly getting worse, nowhere near as much grip as we saw a few laps ago. As you see, everyone just floating it into the corners. Quickly have a look at Hugo Fonbon compared to your leader Riley McKay, and he is starting to find time. So if you want to go on to the intermediates, you want to do it now, as Piccolo is able to get past Snakes into turns 9 and 10, and this might allow Menno to get the run out to the corner. To the outside line he will go before we even get to the hairpin. He gets the move done. Cooper Wozniak now late on the brakes. Nearly goes into the back of the Mercedes. Does tap the back of the Mercedes, but Snakes nearly goes round as well. Cooper Wozniak needs a good run out of this corner as Lewis Walker picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's crucial for his intermediate strategy. Riley McKay, I think, coming into the pit lane, he is. Everyone coming into the pit lane now, so you would expect the intermediates to certainly be the quicker tyre at this stage of the Grand Prix. As there you can see, the raindrops are starting to be visible on the circuit, but for Menno and Pico, they don't think it's time yet, but I certainly do think it is.
Yeah, I'd certainly be agreeing with you. It seems like the track is definitely getting to those intermediate tyres. Hugo Fontbon has been gaining quite a lot on Marcel Biega there, which was my reference point to look at the comparison between those tyres, similar wear to what most drivers on the grid had. So if you're gaining on intermediates, you know you're doing something right. You're taking a fairly good strategy. Hugo Fontbon is currently in 10th place here. And what could have been for Lucas Biesner there, down in 16th place, because he retired when he went on to the intermediates because he thought it was just too early. If he'd stayed in the race a lap or 2 more, he would have realised he was actually on the right tyre just 1 or 2 laps too early, unfortunately, for him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Menno and Matteo Piccolo feed out into this race, because they've gone that lap later. I think they're going to lose quite a few positions here when you think about the fact Lewis Walker, who was in the top 5, you know, who's floating about there battling with Wilson, Hall and Snakes, and well, he's gained on Wilson Hall quite handsomely here in this race. And into the pit lane, Menno there going into the back of Matteo Piccolo. Actually a bit of an interesting crash, but definitely the intermediate's the faster tyre now. But who has got a tyre, not a tyre, a setup better suited to these wet conditions? I think that's going to be one of the main questions we've got to ask here in these final few laps.
Yeah, it certainly is, and overall, for the likes of Wilson Hall and Ben Marples, they really need to start gaining on Riley McKay. But Ben, really, I think he actually has. He's gained about a second, I think, on Riley McKay in front of Saber. He's in a big slide and into the wall slightly for the Aston Martin driver. So hopefully, no front wing damage for him. So this track will be constantly getting worse. Hopefully, for these drivers' sakes, we don't go to the full extreme wet compound of tyre. But as we now head down into turns 9 and 10 with Ben Marples, he's sliding his way through those corners. It's all really, as you say, about who's got the best setup for these conditions. dry setups do usually somewhat transfer over to the intermediate stage. It doesn't really affect you too much, but overall you do still need a good front wing to rear wing balance on the downforce. Matteo Piccolo around the outside of Snakes, a really good move there from the Red Bull man, but he's now got the AlphaTauri all over the back of him as they now head down that main straight, and there goes Snakes straight back by with the DRS. DRS is still enabled, surprisingly, with how wet this circuit is, so of course race control thinking, oh yeah, these drivers can still run with the rear wing open into these corners, as here we see Snakes versus Piccolo, and Snakes keeping the position. Unfortunately for Piccolo, wasn't able to capitalise on getting that move done the first time around. Ben Marple's losing time last lap to Riley McKay, so I think that gap is just going to keep ebbing and flowing, closing and then opening once more as Rene Clean into the pit lane to retire the car as well. That is now a total of 5 retirements from the race. Yeltsin Korsman picks up a 3-second time penalty, but Snakes ahead of Matteo Piccolo. This battle over 5th place really starting to heat up because they've also got the likes of Menno and Kuba Wozniak joining them in the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Kuba Wozniak not looking too bad in this race either. Quite a few penalties though, I believe, in this race, but certainly going to be a good blast to the end of this race. Obviously, these intermediate tyre conditions providing a little bit of an interesting opportunity. I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like it's raining as much as it was. I say that and then realised that no, it was just not being quite able to see properly, given the clouds very much match the colour of the raindrops, but Snakes and Matteo Piccolo there continuing to exchange positions. DRS finally gets disabled. A bit late on the disabling of DRS because the Inters have been faster, about 2 or 3 laps here, quite realistically, but we have seen that before in F1. I'm thinking about, I can't remember what track it was last season, but the track was a little bit wet, but the FIA deemed that it wasn't quite wet enough to warrant it being unsafe for the DRS to be open, but nonetheless, finally that rear wing not being able to open, and that makes overtaking just a little bit more difficult. It means you need a bit more overspeed, which means that it's going to be a bit more difficult for Snakes and Menno to try and get back ahead of Matteo Piccolo in this race. But nonetheless, Hugo Fonfon, one of the first drivers to gamble onto a set of intermediate tyres, he's pit again and he's down in 14th.
Yeah, really unfortunate there for Hugo Fonfon. Obviously just overheated those tyres boxing so early on such a dry circuit, and once you do that, it is pretty much impossible to cool them down. But Snakes now under pressure from Menno. Lap 31 of 35. Next time across the line, we will have 4 laps remaining in this Canadian Grand Prix. And for Riley McKay up in front, it has been a race to remember. Really has dominated since he put on those medium compounder tyres for that second stint. And once he was able to get past the cars in front, never looked back. Of course, he still has to keep this one on the road. It's going to be very tricky to do as Menno versus Snakes rages on down into turns 1 and 2. Menno going very wide through turn 2, but could get a good exit out of the turn 2 and has to get the move done on Snakes. And sits in 7th place still. Kuba Wozniak picks up another time penalty. That's now 9 seconds of penalties. I'll quickly run you through your time penalties in this Grand Prix. Lewis Walker with 3, Kuba Wozniak with 9, Yeltsin Korsman with 6, Patrick Detmeyer with 3, and then you've got Marcel Biega with 3, and Hugo Fonfon with 6. So not too many penalties around the circuit like this, so very well done to most of the drivers not picking one up around Canada. Very easy to do, especially through that Wall of Champion chicane. But look at Riley McKay out front. 4.6 seconds is the gap between him and Ben Marples. He's gained about a second over the last lap, with Wilson Hall also gaining on the Aston Martin as well. So maybe Ben Marples in 2nd place, his 2nd place finish isn't all too safe. We're about to start. 3 laps to go once we cross the line.
Absolutely, Ryan McKay has already crossed that line, and that began lap 33 of 35 here. But looking behind at the battle between Snakes, Piccolo, Menno, Kuba Wozniak and Yeltsin Korsman here, it's quite a good battle here, and it's a lot of points that these guys are battling over. Would you like the fringes of the points, or would you like some big points? And that is what they are fighting for in this one. And the rain just seems to be getting harder and harder. In fact, I'm not even that sure if towards the end of this one we might even be towards the full wet tyre conditions. It's not quite there yet, but you get a bit more standing water on the circuit here, absolutely, you're going to be in a scenario where you might have even needed the wets if this race had raged on just a little longer, but nonetheless, the Inter's working fine for the time being, and Snakes trying to apply the pressure to the back of Matteo Piccolo, but Menno behind is just very close. It's very difficult in these conditions. It's going to be very difficult for Snakes to try and get up to the back of Matteo Piccolo because Menno is just a rocket ship in the straight line here and really managing to dart around the corners well. And, well, to add insult to injury, Snakes is now over 1 second behind Matteo Piccolo here.
Yeah, he's not really going to feel any benefits from set street now on the Red Bull man in front. So he's under a lot of pressure as Cooper Wozniak with another 3-second time penalty to his name. So he's certainly out of the conversation for the top 9 here, as here comes Menno to the outside of Snakes. Are we going to see a repeat of what happened only a few laps ago between the pair? Menno holding this one to the inside and is able to get a much better exit this time around. Snakes with a big slide as well as we exit through turn 2, and now of course Cooper Wozniak across the grass again. That's now what, 15 seconds of penalties for Cooper Wozniak. He's going to fall out of the points at this rate in the Grand Prix. It's going to be an absolute disaster for the man 8th and 3rd in the standings, and it's been a real race to forget since his qualifying ban. Further up, are we going to see a battle between Ben Marples and Wilson Hall on the final lap of proceedings? Wilson Hall has been getting closer and closer to the Aston Martin in front, but will we see him get close enough for a move as we're about to enter the final lap of proceedings? Riley McKay heading down into the World Championship chicane. The Ferrari man up in front, absolutely dominant here in Canada, and in this mixed conditions race, so tricky to get right. He's done everything absolutely spot on. But Ben Marples versus Wilson Hall still raging on. Further back, we also might see Cooper Wozniak be able to get past Snakes on the road, but it'll mean nothing overall when it comes to the overall race finishing. Yoti Korsman will at least get 8th place in this Grand Prix unless he gets held up massively at these 2 in front, and that could allow Fabio Gregetto to get up into 8th come the end of the race. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Piccolo under pressure now from Menno. Menno really has been fast in these intermediate conditions, and he's really looking to make a move on the Red Bull driver in front, but I don't think he'll be close enough to do so unless Pico makes a huge mistake at some point in this lap. But there's a yellow flag further back, and who is that for? That's for Patrick Datmeyer. Go on that final lap of proceedings. Further up though, as Cooper Wozniak now on 18 seconds of penalties. That is a huge amount of penalties. As Grigatello stops himself from getting 8th in this Grand Prix by picking up a 3-second time penalty as well. But further up, Ben Marples gonna be able to hold on to 2nd place, you would think here. But the man coming out of the World Championship chicane, he's gonna make it 2 in a row here in F5. Ray McKay, the Scuderia Ferrari's man, he extends his championship lead and he wins here in Canada. Ben Marples in 2nd, followed by Wilson Hall in 3rd, and Lewis Walker dropping down to 6th place. Matteo Piccolo will pick up 4th, but Byron, what a race that was, and there's a bit of a traffic jam now on the exit after the start-finish line.
Yeah, just happened to catch that one, but nonetheless, what a race that was. Riley McKay, dominant fashion there, especially on that intermediate compound of times. As soon as he got on it, he just did not look back at Ben Marples here, but what a race we have had as the Demolition Derby there into turn number 1, caused by the Aston Martin of Ben Marples, funnily enough, who was your 2nd place man. Cooper Wozniak, despite getting 18 seconds of penalty, is somehow your in-game voted driver of the day, which I'm not quite sure how that one's been worked out, but nonetheless, to the podium goes Riley McKay. I've accidentally skipped the cutscene, and that's just me being, well, completely not amateur at using a PC and a controller on it. But your race classification then, it is Riley McKay who takes the win here. Ben Marples in 2nd, wins Wilson Hall in 3rd, rounding out your podium here. Matteo Piccolo there in 4th, Menno there in 5th there in the Mercedes. The Alfa Romeo Sauber there in 6th there with Lewis Walker, who lost a few places there on the final lap. There is Snakes in 7th, one of the very few drivers who finished where they started. Jelter Korsman there 8th, Fabio Grigoletto there in 9th, and Cuba Wozniak still gets points and had the fastest lap there in 10th place after getting a lot of penalties. But do not count out Patrick Dackmeyer to take those points away from Cuba Wozniak, because remember, he got that 5-second time penalty all the way at the start of the race for overtaking under yellow flag conditions, and that could be a deciding factor. But Nicolo Soro there in 11th place. Hugo Fontbon 13th and 14th there for Marcel Biega. And then your DNFs here in the, well, at the Canadian Grand Prix was Reneclean, Lucas Baser there, Gabriel Prosti and Matteo Ria and Jensen Randall there. And that rounds out your action here at the Canadian Grand Prix. We're going to take a quick advertisement break. We'll be back in a couple of moments' time, and then we'll debrief that race. Don't go anywhere.
That was a very interesting one. I don't know. The past 2 times I don't think we got one. Nah, it's fine.
And you can't see either of us. That's brilliant. I don't know how that's happened. Hang on. Oh, there's one of us. Let me get the other one. Here we go. It's Max Ring, everybody. He's actually here. You're actually able to see him now at long last. I don't even know where to start with that race, to be quite perfectly honest. Just chaos, carnage, but very good race.
Yeah, it was a very, very exciting race, and overall, even with all that rain and everything, and it may look on paper that Riley McKay absolutely dominated, he still had to work for that one. He still had to work his way up through the order on that second stint where he had that quick burst with those medium tyres, and it wasn't as easy as you would think, but for the other drivers, they'll be looking at that, especially the likes of Snakes, Wilson Hall, about how just the rain didn't play into their favour. It was just a really unfortunate scenario for them where they were hoping the rain would come out at a certain time before Riley McKay could catch up, but it just came out 2 or 3 laps too late. So it was really unfortunate for them. They'll come back stronger, but Riley McKay extending his championship lead by a total of, if I can do my maths correctly, another 6 points over Wilson Hall. That's going to up his gap to 11 points over Wilson as we head into France next week. That could be something that could be quite major come the rest of the season. That 11-point gap could certainly be something that Riley McKay is going to be able to hold on to for the rest of the season if he keeps performing how he has been, only finishing off the podium once in Belgium, and certainly is looking like a true title contender this early into the season.
Yeah, not looking too bad at all in this championship challenge, but what a race win for Riley McKay around what a circuit too. You can't really count anyone out of that sort of circuit, but nonetheless, let's have a rundown of what to expect as PSGL action continues. Obviously, this is our last season on the F1 23 game. I've just realised I've actually got the wrong calendar on there, so back to the camera as we go, because I've realised I fluffed it. But next time out, I actually don't know where we're going. That's embarrassing, because I should know.
I'll run you through the calendar if you want, Byron. So
go for it.
Next time out, we'll be at the circuit Paul Ricard in France, followed by a trip to the Algarve in Portugal. Then we head over to the city streets of Baku in Azerbaijan, followed by a trip to the beach to the Netherlands circuit in Zandvoort for round 9. Then we head over to the South Americas for a bit of carnival fun in Brazil for round 10. Then we end off the season in the land of the barbecue with the ribs, and we'll head to Texas for round 11, and that'll be the championship finale, which should hopefully be all the way down to the wire and a decider between quite a few drivers, especially with how this tier has been looking. But Should be a very exciting rest of the season. Next time out in France, a bit of a different circuit to Canada. Very, very wide circuit, but still plenty of overtaking opportunity.
Absolutely, and penalties likely to come a cropper there, just as they did tonight. A lot of very easy opportunities to extend the limits of that track. But nonetheless, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for that exciting race. Sorry you didn't get the qualifying. Maybe I'll find some way to get that footage. Maybe I'll find it and add it somewhere in post. But anyway, nonetheless, thank you very much for watching and joining us tonight. Until next time, though, when we head to Le Castellet in PC F5. Bye-bye.
He's got the inside off here, he's through on the left hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.